Hi, welcome to my video on limits to infinity number 1. Find the limit of each. Number 1, the limit of 5 over 4x as x goes to infinity. So as x goes to infinity, we have 5 over 4 times infinity. That means the denominator is getting larger, and as the denominator gets larger, this expression goes to 0, closer and closer to 0. Number 2, we have the limit of x over x squared as x goes to negative infinity. So as x goes to negative infinity, it's a negative infinity squared. So that's 2 over infinity squared. And again, your denominator is getting larger and larger. As your denominator gets larger and larger, this fraction approaches 0. Number 3, the limit of 3x as x goes to infinity. So if x goes to infinity, we got 3 times infinity. So we get 3 times infinity. So as x goes to infinity, the function is 3 times infinity, which is infinity. So we have, and just to explain that a little bit more, this is a function of y equals 3x or 3x plus 0. Y-intercept is 0. And the slope is rise 3, run 1, rise 3, 1, 1. So there it is there. So as x goes to infinity, y is going to infinity. And we have this one as going to infinity, so negative 2 times infinity cubed. So that's negative 2, and that's infinity cubed. So infinity cubed is very large, so that's a positive number, so that ends up to be negative infinity. So again, x cubed is positive, negative 2 is negative, so that ends up to be negative infinity. Okay, let's continue. More examples. X is going to infinity or negative infinity. Number 5. Again, this is a linear, so we have a negative 4. X is going to negative infinity. So that's a negative, and that's a negative. So the product is positive 4 infinity, which is infinity. So as x goes to negative infinity, this negative 4x goes to positive infinity. And we have the same here. We have a parabola. And just go back to here, just to explain again. This is y equals negative 4x. The y-intercept is 0. And it's a negative slope, so it's negative 4 over 1. So we're down 4, right 1. So it's doing this. So as x goes to negative infinity, which is here going this way, y is going to infinity. And right here we have a parabola, and just explain that one. But before I do, let's plug in negative infinity. So x is going to negative infinity, so it's a negative infinity squared. So that's negative 6 times infinity squared. So infinity squared is positive, that's a negative, so we get negative infinity. And let's look at it from this point of view. Y equals negative 6x squared. So this is a parabola whose vertex is 0, 0, which is right here. And it's opening downward, so it's doing this. So as x goes to negative infinity, which is this side, y is going to negative infinity, going down. And number 7, the limit of 1 over x minus 2 as x goes to infinity. Well, what we have is x minus 2 is equal to 0, x equals 2. So this is a vertical asymptote at x equals 2. So as x goes to infinity, what happens is x minus 2 is going to infinity, so we get 1 over infinity, and the denominator is getting larger and larger, so that means you're going to 0. So that's the limit on this one is 0. Again, as the denominator gets larger and larger, 1 over that number approaches 0. So we have x equals 2. Let's take a number on this side, which is 3. 3 minus 2 is 1. So 1 over 1 is 1. So when x is 3, y is 1 right there. Let's take 4. 4 gives me a 2, so it gives me a half. So 4 gives me a half. So it goes toward like this, going here. So the limit is a horizontal asymptote, and the horizontal asymptote is y equals 0. And we have the same fraction again, but it's going to negative infinity this time. So that means that if we take 1, we're going to negative infinity. X goes to negative infinity, is going this side. So we take a 1 and sub a 1 in here, we get negative 1. 1 over negative 1 is negative 1. So 1 gives me negative 1. So it's doing this, and it's approaching 0. So that means that if you're going this side, it's still approaching 0 as the limit. So if you're going to positive infinity, it's approaching 0. If you're going to negative infinity, it's also approaching 0, because this denominator is getting larger and larger and larger. So 1 over this large number approaches 0. And the last one, we have, this is 1 over x times x minus 4. So we're approaching infinity, so it's 1 over infinity times infinity minus 4. So that's infinity minus 4, infinity, or infinity minus 4 is still approaching infinity. So that's infinity squared. So the denominator is getting very, very large. Infinity squared. So 1 over that approaches 0. And that's just a review of when the limits approaches infinity for this rational expression. So there's some examples. Okay. Infinity or a negative infinity. Again, if you like my video, click the like button, click the subscribe button, visit my math website, www.mathfullyexplained.com, to find more information about me, my videos, and the content. And that's the content on my YouTube channel called Math Fully Explained, just one word. Thank you for viewing my video. Hope the video helped you. Bye-bye.